All right, so Hashview, basically it's a web front end for cracking passwords. So this all started about a year ago. We're penetration testers, and so we had this problem where we kept doing the same thing over and over. We kept cracking passwords, but we'd upload it, we'd have this shell script that runs hashcat underneath the hood, and it runs all these, and we keep going back looking at it, and someone else on the team would be like, hey, is the password cracker free? Because we built this modestly okay 6 GPU NVIDIA 970s for our team to crack passwords on. We're all penetration testers, but there's also some auditors that do password audits. So we're always fighting over the resource. We always have jobs running, and then someone stops one job, and someone else starts up their job, and then the other job doesn't start. And so we needed this kind of like job management, essentially. And then on top of job management, it's like, well, we got word lists, we got hash lists, we have past customers. So we had all these features that kind of started organically growing into this web app over the past year. So there's a couple things that we wanted to tackle. There were some alternatives, and those alternatives were basically either closed source, or you had to buy a big expensive GPU rig. So we wanted something open source that we could kind of give back to the community. We wanted to take advantage of previously cracked passwords. So we go from client to client, we get a lot of hashes, and by the time the engagement's done, maybe we were still cracking though, and we can still get some passwords, but we move on to another client, and it would be really nice if we ran a hashcat task that ended up cracking this new hash. Can we go back and take a look at some of the previous clients that we did maybe in the last 6 months, and do we crack any of those? So we wanted to take advantage of that. We also wanted to queue up jobs. I mentioned the job management. That was kind of a problem. Quick question here though. How many of you are pen testers? Oh, geez, that's a lot. And enterprise security, internal. So, how often do you everyone crack passwords maybe once a week at least? Okay. Awesome. 3 times a day. There we go. So it's important that the objectives that we want to achieve are focused as a penetration tester or a consultant. But what we found out is, if you have an internal team, enterprise security, the features overlap pretty well.
All right, so additional, as we see on the slide here, one of the things that we wanted to get was notifications when jobs finish. We also want to be able to, like I said, queue up jobs. So like one job's finished, we don't want to wait until the next morning to start it up. So if we can get those notifications, that's great. In addition to that, we like analytics and reporting, because it's one thing to just say, hey, we cracked all your passwords in the domain, but to actually like show you like, hey, by the way, the most common passwords. Password, or you have these 10 users that have the same password. That might be an indication that you guys have a bad process in place on resetting passwords, or maybe a help desk that's setting everything with the one password. Things like that. We wanted to have some sort of good analytics and reporting for it.
Yeah, especially with reporting. If you crack all these passwords and you got to take it to your reporting tool, and then you got to format in the way that this reporting tool wants, and then you do that over and over. We wanted to take care of that as well, and just literally copy and paste some pretty graphics straight into a report.
Yep. Again, we want to leverage Hashcat. We love Hashcat. All the features and hashes that they do, we wanted to maintain that because we want to keep that awesomeness. And then lastly, stored and searchable results. Again, like let's say you're in engagement and you get one hash. There's no sense in trying to throw it up into the cracker or run a grep. We just want to have a quick GUI search for it. So we want to have that ability for us. So we submitted the talk. How long ago? 2 weeks?
I don't know. As soon as we got accepted, that's essentially what our GitHub looked like. So like any really good open source tool, it gets coded, about 4 hours of sleep and a lot of caffeine.
All right, so before we actually go into the presentation itself, I want to talk about some key components, just some naming conventions so you guys understand what we're talking about here. So
last slide before we get to demo. So
yeah, the rest is all demos. So, all right, so the first part is users. This is a multi-user application, so again, you can log in with different users, have auditability, who's doing what. That's the end user. you as a consultant. Customers, again, we're designed as pen testers, so this could be your client. We like to tie in every job, every hash file that you're uploading to a specific customer. Again, works better for reporting that way. Tasks. Now, a task, if you're familiar with Hashcat, is a single Hashcat command. So that could be like a dictionary command or a mask command or something like that. That is considered a single task. A job is a series of tasks. So you take a bunch of these different tasks that you want to run, like maybe this word list and this word list and maybe this word list with a rule and so forth. You combine that all together into one job. Word lists are dictionaries, and then hash files are the actual files of hashes that you upload. All right.
So demo time.
All right. So this is the, oh no, this is you.
Yeah, so no, this is the layout. Props.
Oh. What?
This was just working 2 seconds ago.
What if you exit presenter mode?
There we go.
Yeah? Different desktops, VM, PowerPoint. Oh, man. More. We might have some funky looking layouts. I guess I never tested it with such horrible resolution. Is that good? Can you guys see? Or okay, if I go any bigger, it's going to look pretty shitty, probably. So, so Hashview. Props to Buffalo Will and Boca John. Those guys wrote a tool called Serpico, and it really turned me on to Ruby Sinatra and just how quickly you can develop. Because full disclosure, neither of us are web app developers, but we get by. So Hashview, here's the main thing. After you log in, you can see there's no jobs. It actually looks pretty boring and bland if you don't have any jobs running. It detects the GPUs that you have and just kind of lays them out. But of course, you know, it supports anything that Hashcat supports. We did all of our testing with Hashcat 3.10 and above. So just use Hashcat 3 and latest. Over on the right, we give you just kind of recently cracked passwords. This is just kind of so you know that things are working, really. But over here on the left is actually your job queue once you queue up a job. So Hans, show us how to start a job.
All right. So typically when you log in after you have it set up, you're going to want to run a job. And the way you would do that is, you know, create a job. And every job that you have, you're going to have a name for it. So in this case, we're just going to call it Derby. I can't type. And again, we have pre-built some tasks and information. So in this case, the Acme Corp, and you can create a new customer if you want. Like, yeah.
Now for customers, again, if you're like an internal security, this could be projects or whatnot. If you're working on a certain web app or a certain department, or you could just put your company name too.
Yeah, dope. All right, and then one thing I just mentioned is that we can do notifications, right? So that way we can just check that, and then when this job finishes, we'll get notified for it. All right, so again, when you upload hashes, you have to give it a name, so we can just call this our medium crack. Now, in this case, we're going to be demoing a PW dump file. What's really cool about this is that we can support multiple file types. We support PW dump, shadow files, as well as a raw dump. Okay, so raw dump is just basically hashes in a file. It tries to auto-detect it. In this case, it successfully detected as a PW dump file. And the next thing it does is it tries to identify what hash is in there. So in this case, we know it's NTLM, but you could change it to, you know, LM or other, and you can actually type in the hashcat mode that you want to do. Yeah, auto-detect. Yeah. So what's doing now is it's going to go through and it's going to take all the information. Like I said, we do auto-detect. It's based off of some fancy regexes. It's going to take all the information and throw it into the database. Now, we are running this over a VPN, so this might take a quick second here to do. Sorry to our data plan owner.
Yeah, it's kind of nerve-wracking when your demo is on your cell through a VPN halfway across the country.
Yeah. While this is going, any quick questions? So that's an excellent question. So when you do,
yeah, we'll show that. We're going to set up a couple jobs here, and kind of show that job management. That's that feature where this is job number one. Our database is kind of clean right now, but when we upload and we start cracking jobs, if you have another job and you click that, and on the upload, it will automatically go ahead and determine, oh, have I seen and cracked this password hash before? If so, it'll automatically mark that as cracked.
So that way, if you're familiar with a pot file, it's very similar to that. The only difference is that you don't actually have to check the pot file, meaning that you can not interrupt someone else's hashcat process while doing this. Yes. Yeah. Yes. We have put a lot of work into making sure that it does, but if you find an instance where it doesn't, please let us know. All right, so after we've uploaded the hash file, now we need to assign what kind of tasks or operations we want to do with this. Now we ship this with a few tasks, but you can create your own. So for example here, we have a basic dictionary. We also uploaded a word list or dictionary list with it as well. And we're going to do a basic word list with best 64 rules. Again, we support all the rules that Hashcat supports.
Yeah, man, Dell XPS is just shit for keyboard and mouse.
And then lower alpha, if you're familiar with mask mode, that's an example of that, where again, this is a title in there. And then we also have the opportunity to do a raw brute. This is similar to your A3, where it just kind of increments through. We do set a hard limit on how long you want the jobs to run. That's a configuration you can choose. In this demo, I think we do 24 hours, but you can go as long as you want. Again, so you're just not hogging up the job. Once that's done, go ahead and hit create. It's going to go again in the back end, build out all the commands that you need to do, and then now we have a list of jobs. So what we're going to do is go ahead and kick that off. And in the background, it's going to go ahead and, like I said, queue up the Hashcat and the GPUs and everything like that. Now this page auto refreshes here to let you know, and if we can catch it quickly enough, we might be able to see some of the results. So that main console there is now showing you basically the output of the Hashcat command, so you know that it's running. It gives you all the speed specs and whatnot, the heat temps and so forth. But now in the job queue, you can actually see each of the tasks that are running and their current status. And you can see that we already finished the basic word list, and then on the right, we have the results already listed up there. We can also see up on the top here that we have a progress bar letting you know. This is the overall progress bar of hashes cracked versus what's remaining, as opposed to just that specific task. Okay, so we already finished these top three. We're going to let this raw one run because I want to show you some other stuff that happens while this is all going on. So again, this is a multi-user interface. So the idea is that, let's say we have a second user who wants to use this solution. They can use it without interrupting the other process. So let's go ahead and create a new user. And email is optional. Email is again used for notifications when job finishes. All right. And okay. So then one of the other things, like I said, you mentioned you can manage word lists. We ship it with the default word list. For the demo, we were going to upload the RockU database, but again, we're over a VPN over a phone, and we didn't want to chew up data. So we also like to show you at least the size of words in there so you know which ones are which. But you would just basically upload your word list through that way as well. Tasks, like I said, are operations you want to do for it, for each of the word lists or the Hashcat commands. We have, again, the defaults that we have, but let's go ahead and create two new ones. So we're going to call this RockU Dictionary. And we support, the dictionary mode, mask mode, and brute force. With dictionary, you can select which ones you've uploaded. In this case, we have the RockU one, and we're not going to do any dictionary rules for this one. Tasks.
Who here has the problem where they run through like a script or something that they have of like 50 different Hashcat commands for one same PW dump file. You guys do that? Or you just set raw root and let it go? For us, we have like a lot of different jobs and a lot of different word lists, rules, masks, whatnot. Sure. We include the default rule set that Hashcat comes with, and that's about it. So you could upload those actually underneath the hood to the appropriate directory, and it'll pick it up.
3, 4, 5. So again, like for mask mode, we support all the switches. If you want to do a character class with a -1 and so forth, that's also an option available for you. So these are just 3 tasks that we just created here for this. As I mentioned, also every job that we run, every hash file we upload is tied to a customer. So we can create new customers if we want. We have, like I said, Acme and Yahoo Dump, which we already have a Yahoo job running. You can. However, if it's currently running, we haven't tested what happens if you modify the task mid-operation. Typically, you'd want to let it finish, stop it, and then restart it. Combinator tags?
Yeah. So that's a rule list that you can, that's a rule list that you can add in there.
What do you want to name this? Demo client. Yeah. So then, like I said, you can just create the customers that way. All right. So like I said, we want to demo what it's like with having multi-users. So we're going to log out as from this user and log in as the red team user 2 and show you what it's like to queue up a second job with that. Yes. Not right now. Not right now. It's not designed for that. Excellent question. Yeah, we thought about going that route, making it externally accessible, but we are concerned about, that security, because right now it's internal. We don't.
Yeah. Generally, where you keep all your clients' passwords and passwords hashes, you really don't want to run that risk. So I'm the other pen tester. I come in here and I got myself a PW dump or whatever hashes that I have, and I log in and I see someone's got a job running, and I'm like, that's great. I want to run my job. So let's go ahead and create another job. We'll call this. We'll call this Derby Dump. Demo client 2. So you talk about the notify here. We can notify on when that's finished. We'll demo that here in a second. Let's call this small dump.
Again, we're just demoing with PW dump files. We do support multiple file types and multiple hashes. But one of the things we want to demonstrate here is what your question was, what is it detect on import, which is what I'm going to show you here.
Yeah, so if you just click the detect previously cracked, while this is uploading, it's going to go ahead and say, hey, have I cracked anything that matches? So for the sake of the demo, what we did is we actually took a subset of the same hashes so we can show this functionality.
Now, when this returns, keep in mind, watch at the screen on the upper top right, you get a little pop-up saying you've detected previously so many hashes. And also keep in mind, our other jobs is still running while this is going on, so we're able to take advantage of the progress of the other jobs. There we go.
So 514 of these hashes have already previously been cracked, so it's good to know.
And we'll show you where you can actually be what those 500 are later.
So I can go through and just add whatever here. I'll add some of the new tasks that we showed you that we created.
Keep in mind, if you repeat the same task twice, you don't get any advantages off of it.
So we can see that this user, red team user 1, already has his job. It's running still. I could talk to him off the side, hey, you know, can I stop your job and run mine, pick up his job later, or hey, can I just, you know, queue up mine? So I hit play to queue it up. The statistics are still from the current job and task that's running, but as you can see down below here, we'll have my job essentially with all the tasks queued up. So what we'll do is we'll show you what it's like. Say you can cancel per task here. So if you wanted to skip something or just stop it right away, you can stop it from the jobs list menu, or you can just cancel a specific task and it'll move on to the next one. But since it's on the last one, I'll hit cancel here, it'll stop. Yeah, I think we set this up to actually send an alert to my phone, but chances are it won't beep.
No work for the demo. But at least that way, when he knows that it's finishing, you get that notification for it.
Yeah.
All right, so we can see that that one job had finished, second job's already kicked off, and again, it takes advantage of all the previously cracked hashes, so we already have some great results going through already.
Perfect. And I get an email that says total hashes cracked, 1,400-ish or something like that. So that's cool. We get job handling going, makes a lot of the pain points that at least we experience much better. But we'll get into some of the analytics here. So a lot of our customers like to see, you know, kind of the pretty pictures of what it looks like. So let me show you analytics. So as soon as you drop into the analytics view, what you have here is basically the total of all the customers or all projects or whatever that you've performed here. So you can get a nice pretty picture and see we've cracked 2,900 out of 6,900 some hashes. So you can kind of see how well you are cracking, how well your rule sets and stuff are working. Analysis details the total amount of hashes you've seen or uploaded to Hashview. Total unique users, so if it does have users, it'll tell you the unique count. Unique passwords, very interesting to know. And total runtime. Download crack file does allow you to download all the passwords that have been cracked thus far. And it'll output it in a, let's see if I can, you probably can't see that, but essentially it's username, hash, plain text. So, password count by length, overall, you guys are probably really familiar with these metrics. We make sure we cover all the basics. Top 10 passwords, obviously really great for finding out that there's a pattern such as like Monday and then the date, season. You guys all know about that. And so, yeah, essentially base words as well. So that's all time essentially. But I recently just did this demo client to customer. And if I had multiple jobs here with multiple hash files, I can see basically all the hashes for this customer. And these are just analytics per this customer. So we can see total hashes is 3,000, unique users 2,900. The statistics are different. We've cracked many more here for just this customer. So the analytics all change essentially, and those are all the same view as all time. But one thing that's different with analytics here is there's one more feature that when you specify the exact hash dump that you perform, you get one more piece of information essentially. It's all the way down at the bottom. And it's top 20 password hashes shared by users. So this is really common question that we get all the time from our clients and customers, like, all right, so you saw a bunch of this change me, but like, who's all the users that have, changed me? And you can just quickly see that 187 users share that same password. Now, if the password has not cracked yet, it will also give us the hash as well. So We don't know what that is yet, but we know that they're all sharing that same password. So another thing that we ran into all the time is we just want to quickly look up what we've already done in the past. Whether it be just because we're on the current project or a few projects ago, we implemented a feature to search. This will search all the passwords, hashes, and information that you've cracked thus far. So we can search based on a username, a hash, or a password, plain text essentially. Let's take that hash that I just viewed, and let's search. And in here, it'll just it'll give me the the username, the plain text displayed if we've cracked it, the hash type, the hash, as well as the customer that's associated with it. So we can essentially do the same if we search per username. This is a really handy feature. Looks like we actually use that username in both different clients. Interesting. So it tells you interesting information such as that, but this feature is really handy when you're on a pen test. All right, maybe you got a dump or you have some set of hashes and you're looking for that user, or you're like, oh, I know Joey from development can log into the enterprise GitHub. I need his password, and so you go search to see if you've cracked it already, or if you need to look up a user's hash essentially because you need to pass it for whatever.
Keep in mind, this thing updates as your jobs are running. So every time you finish a task and get more passwords, the database and the search feature will update. Yes.
So if I have my Yahoo belt and it has that hash in there, and my phone belt and it has that hash in there,
yes.
does it take any advantage of Yahoo's finish that it gets full and
Yeah. Exactly. It'll go back and retroactively for anyone. It'll search through the database. Hey, I have that same hash that I didn't have before crack. I'll go in. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So that's it. I mean, we just kind of wanted to give you a quick run through of pure demo. Keep it short, simple. You, sir. Okay. So the question is, can you pause a job and then resume it essentially later, correct? Yeah. So yes, you can. Now, what it is doing underneath the hood with the actual Hashcat task is, I better mute my phone. I think people are getting wise. So what it does is it'll run that task. But if you stop the job, it will stop that task. It will take what it's already cracked at that time and input it into the database. Now, what it will do is when you hit resume though with the task, it will pick up from where it left off. So it sees that these tasks are completed and it picks up. Yes, that is a major pain point that we ran into. So yes, you could use like the sessions and the resume of Hashcat, but this was just a quick and dirty way of getting it done that worked for us. Sure.
So you didn't show any of the stuff about the actual configuration on the user side. I'm assuming that's where you indicate like, oh, notify me via email or notify me via text message, that kind of thing. So what the structure is like, what are you storing stuff into? Are we talking like well, or what?
Excellent question. So we do have this marked up on the GitHub page, but yeah, we're using MySQL backend database. We're doing this all Ruby on Rails with Sinatra.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. We first tried SQLite, but we realized we needed to do something besides SQLite as
It's limitations.
gentlemen in the gray.
So is this just a front end to one single machine?
So the question was, is this a front end for one single machine? That's the way we kind of built it. So a lot of penetration testers, they build their own rigs or have their own rigs that are pretty built up. And yes, you could run this in the cloud per se, essentially, if you wanted to. But yes, we're kind of focused on that purpose-built password cracking machine.
What I meant was, I don't have one machine.
Yeah, you want to talk about distribution. Right. Yeah, you can definitely install this on multiple machines. No, no, it doesn't do any distributed crap. It is something that we want to do, but we haven't found a really efficient way of making a good distribution communication.
So as consultants, we're working on one. We're not sending our passwords to a bunch of things. We don't have a whole slew of machines. We just have one beefy one built for our pen test. But we have we have some ideas of how we can easily kind of make this distributed. So.
Like Open MP and things like that?
So the question was, do we research or take into account any more better solutions essentially for job queuing? Sure. So what we're using underneath the hood for actually job control is Redis. So yeah, all of our Hashcat commands get sent to Redis. Redis does the queuing and kind of handles, okay, this is completed. Now we're going to run these post jobs and post tasks and then pick up the next one.
Thanks. There's no support to do it, but I mean it's an open source and there's a SQL database. So if you can build into a SQL file, you can do it that way.
So yeah, the question was, can I upload my own pot file? Not necessarily through the interface, but if you take a look at the code, you'll be able to figure out pretty easily if you can make that work.
Black Turk.
I was going to say it's pretty awesome tool.
Thank you.
For sharing this. We were literally talking about this also how easy it is to use this exact task.
Wonderful.
Appreciate it. But also on the note of like the distributional map, have you thought about other exact types like we look at it as well?
So we've thought that the next steps would maybe be more advanced Hashcat commands that you'd run. We wanted to start with job control and the basics and all the pain points around the whole process itself. And then distributed cracking is also something we want to take a look at. But not really. Yeah, definitely. So
We're open,
yeah, we basically scratched our own itch, and we figured maybe other people have this same problem.
So funny you mentioned that. Our initial instance of this had a lot of that kind of thought process in mind, but when they moved to the open sale drivers for 3.0 and 3.1, a lot of that code that went into to test it didn't transfer neatly over, and so we ended up yanking it out.
One other scratch that we like is, because we talked about that specifically for job management, and one of the big things was prioritization. Because what we collected also, we have very similar things like tracking at all times. And then there's actually a little pen test. We identify hashes from different sources and different usernames and prioritize individual usernames. So if there's a way to do that, basically like come and say, let's say top priority, hold some of this and run through these tasks. And if it doesn't work, then go back to these facilitation.
Yeah, so that's a great idea.
You should submit an issue. And then I'll assign it to you. That's great, though. That's great.
Any other? Yes, in the back.
So, yeah, one of the things we're thinking is, our mindset is we're moving on to the next customer. We have a whole team of guys just uploading all these different customers. We're always getting hash dumps, from the DC. So we're putting them in there, but we also kind of want to retroactively crack them as well. But when is that point in time where you want to remove them or purge them? So
or
what?
take advantage of a previous crack.
Yeah.
Or a previous engagement.
So when you actually delete a customer in the job through Hashview, it will actually delete all the job handling information, but by default, because of those retroactive cracking, will leave all of them in there, but you do have an option to actually purge them. So there is a command you can run to actually purge all those.
Right.
So the question was, were you thinking about supporting John and maybe some other tools underneath the hood? It's definitely something we've thought of.
Yeah.
Just
We'd have to change the name to like then John Hashview or something. Then Loft Crack Hash John View. But at this point we wanted to hit just Hashview first, but yeah, it's something we've been looking into.
cool, guys. Well, thanks for coming.
Oh, yes. Linux, we are currently only supporting Linux at this time.
That's a great question. Yeah, so the question was Linux or Windows? Just Linux at this time. So,
It might work on OS X, but we didn't test.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you have any more questions, we'll be in the back. Thanks.
Thank you.